As far as the K through 12 inflationary funding lawsuit, major player here, at least it seems to be a major player and could very possibly be. Senator, how do you envision this being resolved?
Well, I think the schools are willing to negotiate in good faith, and I think that's probably the best way, particularly in light of the budget issues we're facing, to resolve it. And I hope that that the governor is willing to work on that. So.
Speaker, how do you see this working itself out?
Well, right now, you know, it's tied up in the court system. We're looking at it. Again, we're just starting our budget process inside, and I'm just starting to talk to members, but the president and I have been talking on this issue, looking at it, figuring out the way we're going to go in that. And I've been talking with the governor and his staff there. We're planning a vision for it, whether it is or isn't, but I would tell you, I think we've funded up. I do recognize and we have to look at those situations just as well.
Please.
Well, I think we should follow the will of the voters and restore the funding as they voted to have us do many years ago. You know, there's the two issues there. There's all the back funding we potentially owe and the yearly funding. I hope that the case doesn't continue to be kicked down the road in the courts, and that our schools get the money that the voters approved, and that they can then start to reduce class sizes and implement programs that will help our kids to be successful.
President, how do you take this on, and is there a plan B in case what some folks in the legislature hope to happen doesn't happen?
Well, you know, when the voters voted in Prop 301, they said you can either fund the inflation rate for the base support level or transportation support level. And we, as a state legislature early in my career, we overfunded. And so they received a significant amount above both those combined. And then when we hit the wall of our economy, we said, well, and we didn't just do this willy-nilly. Our legal experts told us, well, you know, when you have the conjunction or, usually means there's a choice. Explicitly, not implicitly, but explicitly a choice. And so we chose to fund the inflation rate for the transportation support level, which we continued to fund. And then we lost that case. The Supreme Court said, look, you know what? When the voters said or, they must have meant and so you should have been funding that. So that's why we got to where we are today. And so there's two components, as Representative Myers has referenced, and one is the back for the several years that we only funded transportation support level. And then there's also, if you increase the base support level. I believe that it's a windfall if you pay back when you are increasing artificially to the $330 some odd million that the school districts claim. But reality is, I think when we talk about negotiating in good faith, there is still a significant number of legislators who believe that, you know what, we actually funded per the proposition because we did fund transportation support level all the way through. There's another cadre of legislators who say, you know what, we overfunded for a significant number of years. And if you average that out and you raise the base support level and the transportation support level combination for inflation, plus you include what we've already paid, then it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $80 million a year that we haven't paid. And the legislature actually has included that in their budget last year and going forward. So when you say, what are you going to do about it? How do you deal with this? I think that, and then sorry to say this, the school districts continue to insist that it should be $330 million. Well, those are enormous numbers, $330 million versus $80 million, which is also an enormous number, but is reflective of the, if we make that particular calculation that I've referenced. The reality is, it is frankly almost an insoluble problem if a court were to insist that you spend $330 million plus add in a windfall $1.25 billion. It becomes almost a very interesting constitutional issue because there'll be an order from a court to appropriate, which constitutionally is the legislature's job. There might be a court order to actually raid the state treasury. Well, how does that resolve? So I just raised these here because in this small, intimate gathering, I think it's important to consider how we got here, where we may be going. And so, Ted, that's the long way of saying it's very difficult to resolve this issue.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And so, Speaker,
Are you indeeding the long part or the difficult?
yes. Speaker, we just heard the Senate President laid this out pretty clearly, put a position pretty clearly, and an expectation that may, if it happens, be long, torturous, and not necessarily the best thing to help brand Arizona as an education state, as a state that goes above and beyond in terms of education. I know you can work between the lines and find the semantics here and there, but this kind of a fight, the idea that academic standards in Arizona continue to be in flux and continue to be argued over, when we're trying to attract business, when we're trying to retain business, is that a good thing?
Holy moly, what kind of question was that there? It wasn't an opinion piece on that one, huh? Look, you've been hearing from us up here. My degree is education social studies, so you're not going to see somebody that's sitting here that doesn't believe in education. And I've been asked by constituents before, do you support education? And I say no. Well, of course you do. I mean, that's the absurdity here. Of course we support education, and we're going to continue to support education. It's about 50% of our budget. And looking forward, we just need to be able to manage what we have in our budget properly. We are sent here to manage this state as elected officials. That's how our republic works. So people can go and do the things necessary to keep our economy rolling, and that is go to work, take care of their family. They do that, then I believe my family's taken care of. I don't think the courts in this matter, they opine in certain ways, and this one may be not a reflective one. I don't know. We're going to see how this works out. Reflective of the opinion of the body. And we have to take into effect the elected officials who are in my body. So as we go forward, we're going to look at the case. We're going to look at how we manage the budget, per se, with all of us. And I'm going to ask my members where we go and where we lead, especially when it pertains to this issue. And then the governor has the other piece. He's got the big one, or the veto, right? Hopefully it's a good one. We all work together. I think we're going to. And I think we're going to see good things come out of this, period, overall. You're going to see a great budget come out of this body with the governor's work on it as well, so that when we go forward, we're going to have a budget that is balanced and getting closer and closer as much as we can to structurally balance itself, especially as we go forward here. But nobody here, I don't see anybody up here or out there who doesn't believe in education. So it's nothing to do with saying we hate education, so we're going to cut things out. We love education. Why do we have education? Why did we have public schools? That's so our people understood the civics, so we wouldn't go back and regress into what England was doing with us. That was the whole purpose of a public education. So do I promote that? Yes, and I think we need to promote civics much higher in the schools.
As far as promoting education and branding Arizona as an education state, are we on the right track?
Well, my question to you is, are you asking about our college and career ready standards, or where are you going with the question?
I'm asking you, are we on the right track in general terms regarding education in Arizona?
Well, just from my experience on the school board, no. We've, like I mentioned earlier, we've cut $4 billion in funding to our K-12 schools over the past 6 years. Our class sizes are some of the largest in the country. If you look at 100 kids that enter high school in our state, and then track them for 10 years, only 7 of those kids will graduate from college. And if we want the jobs that are being created in this economy to be filled, we have to do a better job than that. As far as the college and career ready standards, which was debated heatedly during the election, you know, our districts, I mean, the chamber supports those standards, and they've been advocates down at the Capitol for those standards. And they're just standards. They're in reading, writing, and mathematics, and we want kids to be able to, you know, add, subtract, and read. Local districts make the decision on curriculum and teaching, and all we're saying is that we want kids to be able to read. So our districts across the state have invested heavily in those standards already. They've been implemented, and we're moving towards making sure that our kids are meeting those standards. To undo that all now would again pose a challenge for our districts and our state, and not be good for our image.